Hi, and welcome everyone. Welcome to the live and or to the replay. And if you would please let us know where you are calling in from, that would just be awesome. See where our community is based. And I'm excited to welcome you to season 2 of the Feel So Alive Informed program. And as you can tell, I will probably be looking down at my notes. If you've been following me, you've noticed that I usually try new things, and that's probably going to happen during this program. So please be kind if things get kind of interesting or creative, or if there's some kind of a strange pause or a hiccup. Okay, so let's get into the program. Today, I'm very excited to introduce Ali Davidson, and she is a transformational and business coach, and she's an international bestseller. She's author of Born of Betrayal, which we are chatting about today in part 1 and part 2. And part 2 is on Thursday, so don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell if you're on YouTube so that you'll be notified when we go live next week, or excuse me, on Thursday of this week. Last week we talked about her book, Between You and Me, which is a book that I really needed because I'm in that aging category. Actually, we all are because we're all going to die at some point. It's kind of how this works. But anyway, I'm in that stage of life where I'm thinking about how do I want to do it? What happens next? And her book is perfect for those of us who are trying to sort that out. And today we're talking about part 1, and this is a book that I just found fascinating, a little bit heart wrenching, but also awesome. And it's called Born of Betrayal. So let's see if I can pull Ali up here so we can get started and she can tell us what it was that motivated her to write this.
Okay.
Okay. Hopefully, Ali, we will get you up here. There we go. Excellent. Well, Ali, welcome. It's so nice to have you back.
Nice to be here. So, you want me to tell you how this book came about? The book is about betrayal. It's about what happened to me when my husband of 18 years and my best friend of 25 years had an affair. And it was the beginning of the end of my marriage. And not so much just because of that betrayal. There were other betrayals involved in the whole scheme of it that were just so deep. And betrayal is one of those things that's probably the most devastating thing someone can go through. In fact, psychologists say that it's even worse than the death of a child, which is unfathomable, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But the reason makes a lot of sense. It is because betrayal is something that is a choice. So the death of a child, they didn't die on purpose. They didn't die to hurt you. They didn't have an intention. But a betrayal is a broken promise, and it is something that is a choice. And that choice is what hurts so bad. So this event happened to me, and I moved away from the town that I lived in, and I was spending my first birthday by myself in 40 years. I didn't have a child or a husband. 40 years. And I thought, I have to do something special. And one of the things I'd always wanted to do and hadn't done up to that point was to go to a Louise Hay I Can Do It conference. And it just so happened that there was one happening 8 hours away from me on my birthday. And I thought that was coincidental and that something special might happen on that day. So I went, and I was in an audience of 2,500 people. And Doreen Virtue was on the stage. She's an author. She was called the Angel Lady back then. And she was on the stage and she was doing her little speak. And then she's a medium. She was talking to dead people. And all of a sudden she stops in the middle and she says, wait, I have a message. I have a message for a woman here in the audience. It's Mother Mary and Gabriel, Archangel Gabriel, are here with a message for you that you must write this book. And, I'm an I Can Do It conference for Hay House Publishing, right? Everybody raises their hands in the audience because everybody's got a book in them, of course. And I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness, she's talking to me. And I'm in the middle of this sea of people. And she starts to describe me and she finds me and she says, "You." And they bring the microphone to me and I stand up and I'm shaking and she says, "You're supposed to write this book. It will change the lives of children and their mothers. It will change the lives of women and the children to come," or something like that. And I didn't know what she was talking about. And she said, "Just sit down and write." And so I went back home and I thought, "Well, I'm supposed to write this book. I don't know what it's about." And then I went to see my chiropractor. And while he's doing an adjustment, he says, "Oh, wow." And I said, "What?" Thinking, what did he find in my bones? And he says, "I sometimes get visions. And I just saw you on a stage getting an award for writing a book." And I'm like, okay. And then I got
Wow.
right? Then I got home and, there was an email in my inbox from some woman. I don't even know who this lady was, but apparently she was a writing coach, and the banner on the email said, "Write the damn book." And I thought, "Okay, that's 3 times. I guess I'm supposed to write this book." So that's how it came about, and I started in the middle of the night. So I woke up in the middle of the night one night and just found myself, in that place of can't shut your brain off and replaying all the horrible things that had happened to me and really feeling sorry for myself. And I sat down and I started writing. And it was actually in the beginning in the form of a letter to another woman who might be feeling what I was feeling. And so I wrote the first chapter. And then about, I don't know, a week later, I woke up in the middle of the night again. And it was a different thought and a different feeling. And I sat down, and before I started writing, I went back and read the first chapter. And then I wrote the second chapter. And it went on like that over the course of several years. So it starts with the ending of a life I knew, throwing me like a caterpillar into a cocoon, which was the in between stage of not knowing who I am and what I wanted, and having to do all this healing process around the betrayal and other things that showed up at the same time. And then finally emerging as the new butterfly into a new life, into a new way of being. And, and it was in that process of reading and then writing and then starting again and reading all of it. So like by the time the end of the book came, I was reading from the beginning of the book all the way to the ending before I wrote the last chapter. And in a
Wow.
way, it was therapy. I was like going through my own therapy by doing that, because each time I read it, some new insight. So behind each chapter and each experience during that time was an insight that came to me later that I went back and wrote and to share with people. So that's how it was written.
Well, part of what I enjoyed about reading it, and I'm only halfway through, so that's why we're saving the rest of this for next time, is
Yeah.
that, not only the metaphors to make it easy to relate to, but also the insights that you have at the end of each chapter. And you should see the amount of highlighting that I've got done in the book.
Yeah.
But it was
Oh,
it
well,
was it was really helpful. And you were telling me a story before we got started about a friend of yours. And do
yeah.
you want to tell that story again? Because that's not always
Sure.
true for all books.
Well, and here's the thing about this book. When I wrote it and I before I published it, I shared it with several people. And the people who I shared it with that had not gone through a betrayal of any kind or had not recognized a betrayal, because most people, when they think of betrayal, think of infidelity, which is what this story was about. But betrayal happens all the time. 95% of us will have some kind of betrayal in our life. It's not always infidelity. It could be, a boss who betrays us, or a friend who betrays us, or even our bodies. It's an expectation or a promise that gets broken. So the people who hadn't gone through it, it was heart wrenching and it was raw, but it was a story. To people who went through it or were going through it, I had people who, after I published the book, even wrote to me and said, I felt like you were saying my words. You were you were saying what I felt, you know? And I have a friend right now who's going through a huge betrayal from her husband. And we are reading this book for the third time. I'm reading it out loud to her for the third time because and each at the end of every chapter she's like, "Oh my God, you it's like you're in my head." And I needed to hear that again because I felt like I was through that, but now I'm going through it again, and it's everything is cyclical when you heal, you know, it's like the grieving process. You never go from step 1 through step 5 or 6. You go up and then you go back down again and you go up and you go back down again. So it is something that I think in many ways is therapeutic and and really because I don't mention any names. There's no times. There's nothing in the book that makes it feel like there's somebody specific. It's written in such a way that anybody reading it out loud to themselves feels like they're writing their own story. The details might be a little different, but the feelings are all the same. And so I think that's what's part of the power of this book for
And
people.
it is. It's very powerful. And I'm watching the clock because I appreciate the time that you have given us to be able to share this. And was there anything that you wanted to say about upcoming events, or I think that you had a gift that you were willing to give? I think I've got that on the YouTube, in the bio on the YouTube.
Yes, I think was it the checklist, the self-care checklist, I
I think
think? Yeah.
so. Yeah.
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 So, one of the things that whether you're going through a betrayal or have gone through a betrayal or not, you know, specifically for women, we tend to think of self-care as something nice that we do for ourselves, like a massage or getting a pedicure. And what I tell my clients is if it's on your calendar, it's an agenda item. It is not self-care. So, this little self-care checklist will help people to identify ways in which they can actually take care of themselves, which does add pressure to their lives, you know? It actually is about doing something in the moment when the stress builds so that you can be loving and kind to yourself. So, yes, I hope that people, download it and find it useful.
Awesome. Allie, thank you. And we need to get going, but I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Can't wait till Thursday.
It's
We'll
Thursday.
finish.
Yeah. And thank you very much for joining us.